Good evening, councillors, and welcome to this full council meeting on the 24th of February. Evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. There is legislation that allows the public to film, record or use social media at the council meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. Please switch your mobile phones to silent. Microphones. Councillors and officers are reminded to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. Electronic voting. Tonight we'll be using the electronic voting system. This means that the votes will be carried out via the microphone handsets. When voting is taking place, you'll be given 3 options: yes, abstain and no. And there will be 3 buttons flashing beneath these options. When the voting is open, please select the corresponding button in order to register your vote. I'm now going to hand over to Reverend Dr. Mary Barr to offer prayers.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. This week, of course, we've marked the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And there is so much ongoing hatred and conflict around our world at present. The polarization between different factions of nations and their leaders, which can be so destructive to innocent people. And then, of course, closer to home, nationally and locally, we have our own difficult, maybe not as great, but difficult issues to face. And so as a Christian, I recall again how many times the New Testament speaks about being a peacemaker. And I know that's not easy. And for myself, I don't find it easy to be a peacemaker or a peacekeeper. And so I come back again to that prayer attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, which I pray again this evening for Melton Borough Council, with many difficult issues to discuss and decide, including council tax settings and local government reorganisation. I pray for peace in the midst of that situation, in all your dealings with one another and the wider public. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. And this we ask for your love's sake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Mary. You're quite welcome to stay at the meeting if you like. We've got some very interesting items later on if you want to stay. Oh, do you? Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much anyway. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. He's gone home to watch the darts. Apologies for absence. We have one apology for absence so far from Councillor Freer. Can any member wishing to give apologies for another member indicate they wish to do so by raising their hand? I think we all... Oh. Alan Hewson. Thank you. I can there confirm that we have 26 members, just 2 missing. Members present at the meeting, and apologies as noted. Item 2 on your papers, to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 12th of February 2025. I propose the minutes are moved, so do I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Ornett. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Glancy. Oh, 1 minute. Do any members have any comments to make in relation to the accuracy of the minutes?
Yes, page 6, CO51, Declaration of Interest. The disclosable pecuniary interest I declared was that I'm a council flat tenant and not what has been stated in relation to the minute number CO59. I've just got two more, if that's okay, but it's
Carry on.
I'll just carry on. Yeah. This is number 2, CO50. I want to apologise for a mistake that I made when I asked for my vote to be recorded as against in regard to the minutes made at the full council meeting on the 5th of December 2024 at the last full council meeting held on the 12th of February 2025. I said that I was against suspending the procedure rule 13.7. I made a mistake as I voted for suspending this procedure rule. When I read these minutes recorded on the 5th of December 24 on the 12th of February 25, I misunderstood what was written. So I do apologise for that. And there's just one other thing I just want to say. Oh yes, I just want to finish this bit off. I was definitely for the suspension of the procedure rule 13.7 on the 5th of December 2024, just to reiterate that. And also, as a third point, it may be worth mentioning what I said about the lady who was feeling low entering the church at the Mayor's Christmas Carol service when it was progressing. She had nothing but praises for the council officer who greeted her. She explained what was going on and that there was food after and led her to a seat.
Councillor Gordon, can I just stop you there? I've had the information there and I'm going to visit the lady personally.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
So thank you.
So you wouldn't want to.
No, it's all noted, and
wonderful.
all your items are on record here.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Councillor Gordon. Thank you. Right, we'll now proceed to the vote. Any more questions? No? Right, please to vote. Please use the electronic voting system in front of you to choose either for, against, or abstain. Got one. (24) in favour and 2 abstentions, who probably wasn't here. Outcome, yes, it's 24 and 2 against. Minutes have been accepted. Item 3, declaration of interest. If any member wishes like to indicate that they have an interest to declare, could they please do so by raising their hand? Another registrable interest in respect of Councillor Joe Orson is taken as being on the record for any matters which relate to the Leicestershire County Council. I don't think we need to come out of the meeting for the council tax, do we? We all pay it, but I think there'd be no one in the meeting, would they? So we'll all stay in. Right, Mayor's announcements. I've got, it's only been 2 weeks since the last meeting, so I've not been to many engagements in that time, but I'd like to take this opportunity to raise this point. The Melton Borough Council flag is flying at half-mast. I don't know if you saw that when you came in memory and with respect of our previous serving member and mayor, Mrs. Barbara Hart, who passed away on Sunday, aged 95. Mrs. Hart served as a borough councillor between 1974 to 1991 and was mayor from 1988 to 1989 and was chair of the Housing Committee from 1979 to 1982 and 1984 to 1987. We had an email in from Mrs. Hart's daughter, Dawn Carley. She commented, "Thank you so much for sending me this information about flying the borough flag at half-mast. As a family, we are very touched that the council have taken these steps. I know how much it would have meant to my mum. She loved her work at the council and was committed to serving people of Bottisford and the borough of Melton Mowbray during her time as councillor. Our thoughts are with her family and friends at this sad and difficult time." Thank you. We're going to move straight on to the agenda. 5 is the leader's announcements. I'll now invite the leader, Councillor Allnutt, to provide his announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you say, it's only been 2 weeks, really. On the 20th of this month, I attended Barkstone and Plunger. Is it Plunger or it is Plunger, isn't it? Red Mile Parish Council meeting at their invitation, and I've agreed to revisit the area in May and to follow up on various issues in the interim. I was pleased to be at the meeting with County Councillor Brian Lovegrove and Borough Councillor Chris Evans. Mr. Mayor, on the Monday the 24th this week, I was pleased to stand in for you at our celebration here, thanking Melton Mowbray's various voluntary organisations which contribute in so many different ways to the life of our communities. Mr. Mayor, I did emphasise your personal disappointment, but you were away due to work commitments. It was a lovely evening, and I would like to thank Ryan, Carol, Kate, and the ever helpful Pat for their work to make it go with a swing. Mr. Mayor, members will recall that as part of the UK SPF programme, we extended the food hub provision from the town and into the parishes, and in doing so, we have linked in with some existing voluntary action, but also created new opportunities. This synergy is growing into other forms of assistance and mutual help. The Food Hub volunteers were present and were well represented at our gathering. It was a delight to listen to their accounts and to reflect with them on ideas for the future. So I want to thank Carol and Ryan for all the work they're doing with the parishes and to promote a broader sort of interest in things. Mr. Mayor, on the 19th of this month, we had our routine meeting with representatives of the town estates. And as part of that agenda, we were able to explain the general picture on devolution and local government reform. Mr. Mayor, members may have seen the recent frenetic activity around the botched reversion of a temporary traffic order for loading restrictions in the centre of Melton. The existing arrangements were put in place during the 2020 as part of a series of measures to support the town centre during the pandemic. This permitted loading and unloading period in the pedestrian zone to be extended by 1 hour. The rather peremptory removal of the 1 hour extension 5 years later caused a great deal of consternation among the business improvement district, the town estate and the street traders, who actually they considered not trading in Melton at all because of it. As part of a partnership approach, Melton Borough Council applied for a 12-month temporary traffic regulation order to effectively retain the 1 hour extension, and this takes effect from the 11th of March. But I'm grateful that in the interim, Leicestershire County Council Highways Authority has facilitated an emergency temporary traffic order, so loading and unloading may continue to operate for an extra hour legally. Following further engagement with market traders and town centre businesses through both the town estate and the bid, the council is committed to working with partners to develop a permanent solution. The council will support a consultation on changing the loading times in line with local business needs, whilst balancing the need to help the high street areas to keep the high street areas safe for users and visitors alike. Mr. Mayor, if I may be a little bit cheeky, this whole episode is a good example of why overlarge and remote councils are not ideal for local communities, but more of that later. Mr. Mayor, on the 13th of this month, I chaired our Landlord Assurance Board. Other councillors present were Margaret Glancy, Jim Adcock, Mike Brown. Unfortunately, Ronan Brown was unable to attend us because of work commitments. Mr. Mayor, the Landlord Assurance Board was created before the regulator's inspection last year. This was not a requirement, but it is good practice, and indeed I now understand that in this respect we are now considered an exemplar of that good practice. It provides a forum in which our duties as a social landlord may be monitored by a cross-section of tenants volunteering as critical friends. It is also attended by an experienced external social housing executive as an additional point of reference. The tenant members have received some training, and though some of the agenda is a bit formal in order to meet reporting standards, the meetings are quite friendly, informative and respectful. We do not discuss individual cases, but are open about trends and aspirations. So far, it is clear that for the most part, the tenant representatives are pushing at an open door. Their contributions are greatly valued because they are based on lived experience, which enables us to focus better on key priorities. Above all, the dialogue is based on fact, not speculation. Mr. Mayor, on the yesterday, the 26th, I attended a routine follow-up meeting with members of the inspection team, Without going into all the detail this evening, and having listened very carefully to everything the inspection team shared with us, it is clear that the lab is an important part of our continuous improvement programme, and also that Melton is doing well and is on target for further improvement. I was especially pleased that the inspection team acknowledged the collaboration of the housing team with our community safety team with respect to antisocial behaviour and by extension to criminal behaviour. And I wish to add another word of thanks, Mr. Mayor, to Kelly, who only joined us last summer for her, and it's for her outstanding work in supporting our tenant group on the lab and that great sparkle and energy she brings to a job. Always a smile. Mr. Mayor, on the 18th of this month, I did meet Rupert Matthews, our Police and Crime Commissioner. We discussed his open letter on devolution and local government reorganisation. And we established a large measure of agreement, including his critique of the County Council's approach to this profound and inevitable change. We also took the opportunity to discuss other issues of mutual concern, and that dialogue continues. On the 20th of this month, I chaired a meeting of Leicestershire's district council leaders regarding devolution and local government reform. We discussed the assertions from the day before by the county council leader at their meeting. We unanimously rejected those assertions, which are still there on the county council website and in their press statements. And I should point out that the 7 leaders comprised 2 Conservative, 2 Labour and 3 Liberal Democrat. So we are working as a team for the benefit of our communities and reaching compromises. 4 of the district leaders are also county councillors. There have been further exchange of emails in which we have restated our willingness to meet with the County Council, Rutland County Council and the City, and a meeting will now be held on the 6th of March at 4 p.m. in County Hall. I will heed my mother's advice when leaving the house, and I will take a clean handkerchief. Mr. Mayor, I am pleased to report that on Monday, the government minister leading on local government reform has invited the 7 district leaders to a meeting early in March, and that will be before the 21st of March, and that's relevant for what we will be discussing later. Now, Mr. Mayor, my final point is this. I do feel duty bound to refer to an article that appeared in the Melton Times last week. And I have to apologise in particular to all my Labour colleagues. It's a bit painful for me to have to admit that I had to agree with every word of the article. As I read every line, I had a growing anguish that I simply could not believe it was correct. It was so erudite, balanced and eminently reasonable in tone, I thought it must have been written by Councillor Helen Cliff. I refer, of course, to the article by our Conservative MP, Edward Agar. Edward, or Ed 2 as I prefer to call him, twice referenced my friend and colleague Matthew O'Callaghan with praise, describing him as long a doughty champion of Melton to whom we all owe gratitude. And I agree totally with Ed on that. Apart from food and Brenting be damned, Matthew has, of course, been my election agent. So, Mr. Mayor, things can only get better.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for stepping into the breach on Monday for me. It's very kind, thank you. Straight back to the agenda. Should get through these pretty quickly. 6, public question time. No questions from the public have been received. 7, questions from members. No questions from members have been received. 8, motions on notice. No motions on notice to hear this evening. Straight on to item 9. In accordance with the regulations, the vote on this item's motions will be taken as a recorded vote. The record of the vote will be taken from the electronic voting system. I will now invite the portfolio holder for corporate finance, property and resources, Councillor Cox, to present the report on council tax setting for 2025-26. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst this council set its budget and council tax levels at the meeting held on the 12th of February, Melton Borough Council, as the billing authority, is required to formally note the various council tax calculations for the forthcoming financial year, which includes the council tax set by the parishes and the preceptors. Whilst the average increase in council tax for this council is 2.99%, the average for the whole area, when all the precepts are included, is 4.88%, and this is represented in paragraph 9.1. This table clearly shows that this council has set one of the lowest overall average council tax levels out of all categories of authorities, with district councils being one of the most restricted in terms of the increase it can levy. Individual amounts for each band and each area is set out in Appendix C. For Melton, the general fund increase in a Band D property equates to 10.52 pence per week. Following approval this evening, the hard work will begin for the revenue team as they prepare the annual bills to be produced. We recognise that there will be many in our community that may need support to pay their bills, and we have support that can be made available and resources for those that find themselves in that position. I would strongly encourage any member of the public that is going to struggle to pay their bills to contact MBC at the earliest opportunity for that support. In addition, to any member of the council who is interested in a physical copy of the budget book, they are now available from the Finance Director. And I'm happy to move the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Olnett. Reserve the right. Reserve the right. Thank you. I will now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak. Nobody? I can confirm that no other members wish to speak. We will now proceed to a vote. Please use electronic voting system in front of you to choose either for, against or abstain. The outcome is 17 for the amendment and 9 abstentions. I can confirm the motion is carried. The last item on the paper. I will now invite the leader, Councillor Olnett, to present the report on the devolution white paper. Councillor Olnett.
Members will be aware the government published the devolution white paper in December 2024. That was pursuant to their manifesto commitment. The document sets out the government's ambition to devolve powers and funding to the regions and establish strategic mayoral authorities in all areas where they are not currently in place. For us, we are south of an existing mayoral authority, and we do not benefit as they do from inward investment, additional funding for such things as training. Now, alongside plans for devolution, which is one part of the equation, the government has confirmed that it wishes to simplify local government structures below these regional strategic authorities, and for two-tier areas, invite reorganisation proposals from bodies such as ourselves, which will facilitate unitary local government. And in large measure, this is a conclusion to a process that really started back in 1966. Since the white paper was published, we have worked proactively to understand the implications arising from it and to ensure, as a council, we meaningfully respond to it. And at this point, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank all of my colleagues across the other district councils and indeed all the chief execs for spending hours and hours and hours on reading the small print and working really hard to put us where we are now in a position to discuss this with our wider public. So I want to thank them all for that. So we've worked proactively to understand the implications arising from it and to ensure as a council we do respond to it in a meaningful manner. As you can appreciate, things have moved very quickly, but we have worked hard to keep members informed along the way, and I've tried to do that myself. sending various update emails and providing an initial report to Cabinet on January the 14th and holding an all-member briefing the same day. And I do appreciate that some members wouldn't have been able to get there because of work commitments, and I think we must think about that for the future. The report before you provides a further summary of the key proposals within the white paper, as well as the process we will be subject to, and an update on the work done up to this point. It is important to highlight, as the report clearly states, that no decision is required tonight. But this represents an important opportunity for all members to provide their views on devolution and local government reorganisation, and to help inform the development of interim plans alongside our neighbouring councils and government colleagues. And of course, those plans are for the 21st of March, but the real deadline for the detail is November. So we have got time. Before opening up the discussion, I would like to highlight a few aspects in the report and bring members up to speed on some specific developments since the agenda was published. Following the publication of the white paper in early January, the District Councils convened a meeting of all 10 local authorities across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, with a view to discussing how we might work together and collectively respond to this important issue. My preference, and that of all the districts, is that we would have jointly undertaken a review of the options, which we know is happening in other places like Nottinghamshire, and then see if we could achieve a local consensus on the best one. Unfortunately, the day after our meeting in January, the County Council submitted a request to government to postpone the elections, which will be held on the 1st of May, and be added to the fast track local government reform programme. There was no meaningful prior engagement, discussion or agreement with us or the other districts before this was done. In fact, I attended one meeting at which the leader of the County Council said we haven't made the decision, and then 4 hours later apparently they had done. So I'm a bit cross about that. As you will be aware, the County Council's request to postpone their elections was declined by the government. This means that while we are still required to submit interim plans by the 21st of March, the May elections will go ahead and we have more time to develop final proposals which need to be submitted to government by November, as I previously said. Since we received the ministerial letter, that's the formal letter, in early February, referenced in the report, we have again attempted to convene meetings of all 10 local authorities to discuss how best we respond. Unfortunately, it has proved difficult to get us all together, and in reality, the position was then superseded by the launch of the County Council's proposal for a single unitary council on Wednesday last week. Again, as districts, we have publicly expressed our frustration about the lack of meaningful engagement from the County Council, but helpfully, we do now have a meeting in the diary, which I've referred to, on the 6th. I look forward to discussing things further with them, as indeed all my colleagues do, because it's not me, it's a collegiate group. As you would expect, in the absence of a wider dialogue, the 7 districts and Rutland have started to review the evidence and look at the options, and ultimately establish how we best unlock the benefits of devolution for our area, whilst also delivering the best possible approach for local government reorganisation. Our current thinking, and I emphasise it's current thinking, it's not decisions, which I shared with all members last Friday, is that devolution can best and most easily be secured if we establish a mayoral strategic authority covering Leicester, the city, Leicestershire and Rutlandshire. Beneath this, our current view is that there is a clear case for 3 unitary councils, North including Rutland, South, and the third one would be the city. All would have a population of circa 400,000, which gets the balance right between scale and physical geography, and which would maintain local connections and best support a new strategic authority. I want to emphasise that we looked at evidence. We weren't approaching this from a doctrinal point of view, and we did charge the chief execs to come to us with a lot of data. So it wasn't taken on a whim, as it were, but we did reflect on the information and not how we felt about things. Indeed, I may say that I was in favour of one way of doing it, and we drew 4-4 in the vote. So we looked at the evidence, and it sort of VAR. It was quite clear which way we should go. It is important to say that this is not a proposal, but is our initial thinking. And earlier today, we initiated a period of stakeholder and resident engagement so we can ask people what matters to them and use their feedback to shape the development of our interim plans. It is also important to state that these interim plans are not binding and that we will have the opportunity to adapt them as we learn more and talk more with our partners. We will also undertake more engagement work over the coming months. On that basis, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to propose the recommendation, and I do look forward to the debate, and I shall be listening very carefully to everyone's opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ornett. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor
Happy to second, but I reserve my right to speak later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Nancy. I will now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the update, Leader. The paper presented in front of us tonight is the start of a process that will see local government change in its most significant form for 50 years. I don't think anyone can disagree that change is needed, and we now know that the current government will carry out the manifesto pledge to create larger unitary authorities across the country. Their aim, they say, to deliver more efficiencies and better run services for residents. Councils have struggled in the last 20 years to meet all the demands placed upon them, and the services people required have changed a lot. Finances have been stretched in the sector, and this is not going to change. What we have in front of us is the leader's preferred option for the council. This may end up being the option the government choose, and it may not. What we do need is to ensure that we as Melton Borough councillors have a say on behalf of our residents before any final recommendation is made. This is the start of what will be a period of review and building of business cases. The government will make any final decision for Leicestershire, and positions will change as civil servants give us a view and more guidance on what will be acceptable and what will not be, and what will not be presented, and what is not presented. We currently have the situation in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland that there's currently not a united view, collective agreement or collaborative working across the local government bodies. This will be required due to the challenges the city in particular has, the fact that most of our services are run by Leicester County Council and the districts are very different in population and geography. What is key, there are 4 main areas that currently districts don't lead on, but what every new authority or authorities formed there will need to have a clear vision and pathway to ensure services are robustly continued and managed as well as they currently are, with an intention to improve those services further. Those services, just to remind everybody, are children's social care, adult social care, transport infrastructure and economic growth. Very, very significant services that, as we'll all seen, have been managed very well across the county, with challenges in the city, obviously. If these 4 areas are not well managed and any new authority or authorities find it difficult to manage, they will suffer financially. And we see that across the country from the north of England right down, where adult and social care struggle, there is financial consequences. Therefore, we feel that further safeguards need to be agreed by this council to ensure that any decisions on devolution which affect our residents is monitored, councillors have a say, and most importantly, our residents have a say and our stakeholders are listened to. I am therefore going to propose an amendment to the recommendations tonight on behalf of my group. And these are, and I would, I think, officers, if I could ask the officers to circulate the papers, please. There's 4 recommendations which I'll read out, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor and Chief Executive. Yeah, okay. So this will be 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 and 2.7. 2.4, the council requests the leader to work together with all parties to secure the best structure of local government for the residents of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, and report on progress at each council meeting until submission is made of final proposals in November 2025. That as part of the regular update, the leader provides members of Melton Borough Council with details of costings and commission of works with outside agencies to support the development of the council's preferred option for local government reorganisation. That the council requests that the leader to engage with all partners, including Leicestershire County Council, City Council, county NHS bodies, police, fire service, ICB, and other key stakeholders as part of developing the county's preferred option. And finally, 2.7, that before any final proposal is submitted to government in November 2025, setting out Melton Borough Council's preferred option, that a report will be submitted to the full council detailing the full benefits and weaknesses considered in relation to this and compared against those options which have been rejected, and that the council will have an opportunity to consider, debate and give its view on this. And if we just finish off, please, while you consider that. Whatever is agreed needs to be robust, needs to meet the needs of our residents, and structures left need to be able to support the most vulnerable and help grow our economy. These are reasonable asks that I'm asking tonight of members in this room, and especially as we deserve. We are a diverse and home council, and I would ask the leader and the proposer of this paper to support these amendments that I've put forward on behalf of the Conservative Group this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Just 1 minute. Do I have a seconder for that amendment, Councillor Joe Olsen? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would like to second the amendment, obviously. If you look at the papers works 212223, I don't think any of us got anything great problems with that. I look across the room and everyone seems to be quite placid with that. So when is that working now? It is working. I thought, yeah. Oh, okay. And let's be honest, this was in the government manifesto. So we knew it was coming. What surprised us a little bit, I suppose, is the speed of it coming. It was also in the government manifesto, not in the government manifesto, sorry, the cutting of the £300 for pensioners as well, of course, wasn't it? It wasn't in the manifesto about national insurance rise, but this was in the manifesto. So we take it on. Now, we've seen it all before, of course, but this time the government have made it quite clear the status quo is not going to remain. So I accept that. Now, if you look at the amendments 2.4, I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit. You've got it all in front of you. The council requests the leader to work together with all partners to secure the best structure of local government for the residents of Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, and notes progress. I don't think any of us can be against that, surely. Again, I look round the room, everyone's reading. 2.5. That as part of that regular update, the leader provides members of the Melton Borough Council with details of costing and commissioners of works with outside agencies to support development. Again, that's common sense, isn't it? We need a business case. That's what that's saying. So let's have it. Let's have regular reports. At this moment in time, it doesn't exist. 2.6. That the council requests the leader to engage with all partners, including Leicestershire County Council, the county NHS bodies, the police, the fire service, the ICB and other key statutory stakeholders as part of developing the council's preferred option. Again, I look round the room. Again, I can't really believe anyone will be against that in any amendment that we're going to vote on, because it will only strengthen the case for this council when it comes to take a decision, or when a leader comes to take a decision just before the November deadline. 2.7. That before any final proposal is submitted to government in November 2025, setting out the Melton Borough Council's preferred option, that a report will be submitted to full council, detailing the full benefits and weaknesses considered in relation to this and compared against those options which have been rejected, and that the council will have an opportunity to consider, debate and give its views on this. Again, I look round the room and I seriously can't believe anyone will be against that section of the amendment. So please, members, look at this carefully. I suspect the leader is going to ask for an adjournment of 10 minutes to consider this. He may not. No, he isn't. So that's good. So we can keep on with the debate. So it's a good amendment. It's there to strengthen 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and I look forward to hearing comments from the rest of the council members. Thank you very much.
Councillor Joe Olsen. Councillor Pip Ornett, would you like a 5-minute adjournment to go through it? Are you okay, Councillor Ornett?
So far as 2.4 and 2.6 is concerned, totally agree. I can accept those into the motion that I put. 2.5 and 2.7, we might need a little bit of guidance from the monitoring officer and the chief exec.
Adjourn then, shall we put, Councillor Ornett, shall we adjourn then to go through those items?
Okay.
5-minute adjournment?
If they need it, yeah. I was just going to say that mostly 2.5 and 2.7 I agree with, but it's just some of the implications, for example, about detailed costings coming back to this type of forum. I accept we've got to report it in some form, but not this. The detailed costing might not be in this forum, but that's the sort of advice I want. And can I just say that whatever the officers say about my constitutional position, I would not dream of signing up to something if I hadn't got the full backing of at least a majority of members at council come November. So if you want to adjourn, that's fine.
So I'm going to stop you there, Councillor Ornett. We're going to take 5 minutes there. We're going to adjourn for 5 minutes and come back to the debate. So the meeting is now adjourned till 5 minutes time. So yeah. To order, councillors. I think 5 minutes has elapsed. Councillor Carter, can you please take your seat, please? Okay, the meeting is now sitting again, as I would. Could we go back to Councillor Ornett?
Well, sorry, am I sitting down or standing up?
Sorry, Councillor Ornett, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm very happy to accept all of these into the substantive motion. It's mostly what I would be doing anyway, am doing anyway. And so it is, it's something or nothing really, frankly. But if we need it spelled out, that's fine. Very happy with that.
Margaret, as seconder, are you prepared to?
Yes, I'm very happy to second this. This is something that we would have been doing anyway. We are a very inclusive council, and it's a bit of a shame it has to be written out in sort of 4 points, but it's something that we would be doing in this particular council.
Now we're open to debate on the 7 items now, but Councillor Lumley.
Mr. Mayor, can I add an additional clause to this amendment, 2.8? Yes, wow. So it is all going to be coming out to you in a paper form. So just in summary, thank the leader for all his hard work into the devolution and local government talks. And there's going to be differences in opinion. We've got complete trust in the leader to make the right decisions with our group of powers. And we also welcome the public and other stakeholders' views on this over the coming months. Thank you.
Can we just split the papers, please, and we can discuss 2.8? And do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Higgins, thank you. I don't think we need adjournment for this, but we'll just give a minute just to read this again. We accept this will be 2.8 going on to the item. Right, so now going to go back to the leader. Are you wishing, want to accept this as a 2.8? We'll go to debate.
A bit embarrassed by this, really. Well, I am if my seconder is.
No? Oh.
I'm happy to second, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Let's see. We'll now open this to debate. All well, down to 2.8. Down to 2.8. So the debate is open. Anybody wish to speak? The whole thing now, yeah. Nobody? Oh, Councillor Higgins, thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all councillors with the additional points in. It'd be very good if the leader would be able to encourage all councils and bodies to put these 4 additions in, and probably not the last one, because it won't be relevant to the other authorities. But if the city, county, Rutland, and all the districts could put that in as well, I think that would be very good if you could encourage them to engage with this council wholeheartedly and other bodies. 2.6 is very well worded, but it's definitely a two-way street because as we know with Northamptonshire, one of the difficulties that the commissioners picked up with Northamptonshire and why it failed, and then it had to go for a 2 unitary side, is there was several things in their report that anyone can read on the government website, but the failure to accept challenge and groupthink mentality had prevailed. Scrutiny and accountability had been undermined, and internal audit outsourced. And one of the points they've said here, destructive mistrust amongst partners. We can't allow that to happen at all. I think I do set out a bit of a reservation. I think the government is a little bit rushing a little bit of this change. It's going to be complex. It's going to be difficult. I think a unitary body is the right thing. How that looks, but we need to keep the local in local government. Yeah. What we have seen from the flooding issues recently is because people know what's happening to their communities on the ground, is they're able to engage with other partners on a more efficient and quicker scale. And I'd like to thank Michelle Howard for coming to my villages as well, when you did that to the public meeting with the Environment Agency, when those invites went out. And I think it was the part, as you said, Michelle, as you said to the community, there's a human element to this. And anything in democracy as well, it's not all about balance sheets, numbers and figures. It's about how, I think some people have spoken before, how services are delivered and the outcome of those services. One thing that Melton has struggled with has sometimes not been of its own making. This community has waited ages for the bypass. Before I was born, but now we have the bypass on its way. We still need the southern bypass. We need a second doctor's surgery, but where everybody is hoovering up the Section 106 from planning applications, that leaves less money to go to NHS bodies. So we do need a whole holistic approach, which 2.6 talks about very, very well, because any Section 106 must go to securing this, the second doctor's surgery here in Melton. The other thing that people are crying out for at the moment, and a lot of people are getting very frustrated with, is that their children are being bused outside of the geographical area to different schools, and that's impacting their education as well. So we need our school places. Developers and this council have raised, it was on national TV with Question Time, £35 million this council has raised with Section 106. We need the school places in this area. And so that's why local government and councillors from whatever the political spectrum's fighting for their residents, we need any new council to be representative of that ethos. It can't be where we're robbing Peter to pay Paul and using development money, but using the investment of Section 106 to schools the other side of the geographical area. We need that here, and we need to start delivering, because the public who raised it at BBC Question Time was very, very apt. Where is the infrastructure? We're seeing the houses. Where's the infrastructure? We know it's being raised. We need that delivering here. And devolution, if the government's really honest for it, it will hopefully help. But it's not going to solve everything. It's a little bit of rearranging the deck chairs. But I do hope if we do this devolution, and it's...
Councillor Higgins, sorry, time's nearly up.
Okay, I'm just finishing. Yep. And government trust local government to do the right thing up and down England and in England, then we will get those services delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Gordon, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to speak on the other elements of the white paper, if that's okay, on page 37, just to bring up some of the points there, if that's all right. Right. Well, what it is, the first one, it's on points 523. And it's intentions. This is number 6. Letter C. Intentions to introduce a mandatory code of conduct for councillors and to re-establish a national body to deal with the most serious standard cases. I would like to know what would be termed as serious cases, and I do believe that councils should be able to deal with this themselves. And D, empowerment of councils to disqualify councillors if they are subject to suspension more than once. Well, I believe that they are elected by electorate and they shouldn't be changed. The electorate will make their choice at the ballot boxes during the election process, and I believe in that. And
sorry, Councillor Gordon, could you be brief, because we've got more to talk?
Oh, can I come back to this then?
Well, not this meeting, but there's still time to talk about this later on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Joe Wilson?
Yeah, just very briefly. Lee, or Councillor Higgins, sorry, obviously mentioned question times, and I think it's fair to say Fiona Bruce was the first to acknowledge the infrastructure problem was a national problem right across the whole country, and it certainly is. There's no doubt about that. You know, we all want to see local schools being developed, etc., etc., and schools are being developed. And if you go around the village schools, that's happening not just in Melton Mowbray, but right across the county as well. I mean, my biggest fear, of course, is the local plan. If that does fail, and I think that is a possibility because of the lack of southern bypass cash, that means more schools will fail, of course. So it's vitally important that the leader uses his magic wand, you know, to somehow find money to get that southern bypass going, so we can have the infrastructure in the town and use that 106 money. 106 money, it seems everybody wants 106 money, and there's only so much you can have, of course, and that is a massive problem. And you know, you can't just have it for a doctor's surgery, because if you do that, you won't have it for the schools, and then you won't have it for the NHS. So it's always a careful balance, isn't it? Which I'm sure Councillor Higgins will agree as well. So, yep, full of agreement with what's been said, and fingers crossed we can go forward as a council together in the whole county, whether it be as one unitary or two unitaries, a combined mayoral authority. I have no idea what's going to happen, like none of us do. But one thing is for sure, I suspect the government will impose it on us, actually, at the end of the day. That's my gut feel. And I don't envy whoever makes that decision. But that's the way it goes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lawson. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Ornett?
I'll get a right reply.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's fine, well, yeah. Councillor Clancy, you reserved your right as well. Did you wish to contribute?
I did. Sorry, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I was waiting for Pip. Yes, well, really, change is on its way, whether we like it or not. This is an opportunity. I think that's how we need to look at it. But change is worrying for everyone. And I think we've heard some worries here this evening, which I agree with most of them. But I think big is not necessarily beautiful, as we've already heard, which is why we need to keep the local in local government. We should not allow any new authority to be cumbersome, out of touch, distant from this rural borough. We have a difficult road ahead, excuse the pun about the Southern Bypass, a journey that will have many twists and turns, but I'm hopeful and confident a proposal which retains the local influence in any new unitary authority. We cannot lose our local and rural identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clancy. Now back to the leader for his final words.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to add too much. I just want to respond to some specifics. With respect to adult social care and children's social care, I agree that's a big issue to be dealt with. Dorset managed to do it, and of course Rutland is an upper tier authority already. I accept it's not as big as others, and there is a review going into adult social care anyway nationally. So that's something to keep an eye on, and I do agree with that. As there are many other things, because we're not being fast tracked, and this is not likely to come on stream until 2029, I would guess. There will be time for the equivalent of something like a transition board or a shadow authority, and there are lots of elements to this. What do you do with the balance sheet items, reserves, and debt? So there's lots of things to think about there. So there's one thing that hasn't been. Councillor Higgins did mention about rushing. I would say we're not really rushing it, because this is not going to be imposed tomorrow. It will be imposed if we can't agree amongst ourselves. Now, I've attended webinars with many other councillors of all parties, and we've been expressly told that the onus is on us to agree something locally for LGR, but if we cannot agree it and it isn't clearly viable, then there will be imposition. So this is why I've been so keen to have dialogue. I've been trying to get dialogue since last August, frankly, and I've been knocking at many doors. So I go completely along with what's been said on that. Now, Councillor Joe Orson did wander into matters slightly outside devolution, mentioning the bypass. Well, I don't want to get into lots of silly arguments about that, but it was the county council that handed £18 million back to the government and pulled stumps on it, maybe for good reasons. I'm not a member of the county, but they handed £18 million back, whereas I kept to my pledge to keep the LUF money and to use it. So let's not forget that. Can I just finally say that I'm very grateful for the unexpected amendment from Councillors Lumley and Higgins. It is a vote of confidence in myself and to what I've been doing on behalf of this community and this council. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. I would like to, if possible, vote en bloc on the 2.1 down to 2.8, unless anybody is contrary to that. We're going to use the electronic voting system for that. I know it's after this, so we can note it rather than voting. So just voting en bloc 2.1 to 2.8. That's unanimous. That's carried. Thank you. So the recommendations are to note, and I can confirm that the report has been noted by the council. The meeting is now closed at 7:34. Thank you.
Members, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Mayor of the Borough of Melton, Councillor Tim Webster.